From the first part of the audit for Charleston Mayor John Tecklenburg to why he's running for District 3's City Council seat, I speak exclusively with local attorney Jason Taylor for the special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Listen to this interview Friday on my free Quintin's Close-Ups iHeartRadio podcast. And right now, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Jason Taylor, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
It's a pleasure to see you again, Quintin.
I appreciate it greatly. Let me start off with the obvious, and this is a headline from live5news.com. It reads this: Audit of Charleston Mayor finds some questionable practices, call for policy changes. An audit of Charleston Mayor John Tecklenburg's office has found some questionable spending practices and calling for changes in some policies. The audit found, among other things, the issue with travel and meal expenses and the use of city-issued credit cards. There were some expenses that the auditor says did not benefit the public. When you look back at this first batch of audit, what goes to your mind as a Charleston City Councilman, Charleston City Council candidate?
We do hope for the future of Charleston, and I think we're all invested into it.
That's right. But obviously, you are an attorney, and you're obviously running for Charleston City Council District 3. When you look at this as an attorney, what goes to your mind first?
Well, it's the legality of it. And oftentimes there's a gray area within particularly administrative guidance, regulation. And I think what they've alluded to is that we have a gap in policies and procedures. And I think some of the headline referred to perhaps payments that were then reimbursed. And without a clear policy in place for that, there's no necessarily a breach of that office. As far as the legality, illegality of it, so far nothing has pointed to anything illegal. So this would be an administrative issue within the executive and within City Council to create the legislation or at least the regulation to be implemented to protect against these kind of what is perceived to be improper or perhaps in that gray area types of expenditures.
Now, if you were on City Council today, what legislation would you introduce?
Well, I think the city's taken a good step. If you noticed, there was a recent ad for a new city attorney.
Right.
And I really do believe that we need more attorneys in politics because it is these small semantics. I believe that the spirit of this was not necessarily completely politically based, but on a issue of corruption. And we've seen corruption not just at City Hall, but we've seen corruption on Lockwood Avenue with CPD recently in the redesign of their traffic department.
When you look at the redesign of the traffic department, what are you looking at right now?
Well, as an attorney and as a citizen, what I'm concerned about is now our perception and our community's faith in our judiciary. If we don't have faith in these kind of institutions, it carries over into other areas. And part of our democracy is faith in these institutions that carries them on. And once our citizens lose faith, then where is the respect and cooperation and what we're trying to achieve in this great American city?
How much faith do you have in the police department now?
I have faith, I have faith in the judiciary in totality. I've sworn an allegiance to uphold our Constitution as an attorney, and I hope for the best. You know, there's what they call a rotten apple theory. If you look at police corruption,
okay.
The rotten apple theory says there can be a few doing it, but then it corrupts the whole. What earlier I called for was community policing. You know, bikes in the street. I have advocated for a change in our police system post Reuben Greenberg, our former chief, who really led this city to greatness and safety. And I've been pushing for that change since, and I think this new issue illustrates what City Council unanimously did when members of my future constituency spoke out about a need for a change in police practices. When I spoke to City Council about the increase in crime in the District 3 area, City Council unanimously, just like with the audit, supported the police department in their efforts. Well, this has been going on for a long time, and this being the traffic department's issue and under Chief Reynolds' watch. So City Council's completely behind this department, and we're seeing new issues of corruption.
What other issues of corruption do you think are going on right now?
In which agency?
In the police department.
Well, you know, corruption it carries a variety of issues. Whether I don't think there's no bribery going on, but what I think that there is just like the rest of our government employees. And when the executive office gets a huge percentage pay increase, when our garbage collection workers, our most vulnerable of our population, are not getting pay increases to the bare minimum wage to live in the Charleston area, we have a misallocation of money. And if our civil servants were paid a working wage and we increased livability and affordability for those necessary first responders on the peninsula, we would have less of these issues arise in these departments.
Let me get back to the audit, because Channel 5 wrote this too. Among them, meaning the audit, business cards for the mayor's wife is what really triggered the audit in the first place. The auditor that is, also found problems with the city funds being used to pay for a birthday party for an individual, meaning Lonnie Hamilton, and to take out a newspaper ad to congratulate another person on his birthday, Jim French of the Charleston Chronicle. It also goes on to say this: the auditor said there were policy violations with the use of procurement or P cards by employees, including no detailed receipts or what kind of business was discussed. When you think of procurement in the city right now, where does your mind go to?
Well, that is where you apply to get your funds from, reimbursement, and between you and I, well, and on your entire YouTube video, that's one thing I love about you. It's always off the cuff. Government is nothing about more than who gets what, where, when, and how. And I think what this article and the original findings of the audit have pointed out is that our city has lagged behind in modernization of its services to our community. And unfortunately, all these various issues lead to the necessity for change and modernization to keep up with the meeting demands of our community.
What are those demands of the community now?
Well, you know, what I want to say is Charleston is not merely a destination. We live here on the peninsula. We are a community. We are residents. We are all the way to West Ashley to Daniel Island. We are Charleston. And our services should be equally spread, not just for the promotion of tourism, which some of our state legislation requires that certain funds come back in or spent in tourism advertising. We don't need to add more cruise ships. It's shown, USC studies have shown that they don't add more money. We need to reprioritize with a theme that Charleston is not merely a tourist destination. I happened to be at the airport last night. #1 destination. We are a community of individuals and those who need to be served first.
Now, you know, if you go online and you read stories and Facebook posts about tourism dollars and whatnot, people have questions about that. What questions do you have?
Well, we had a thriving tourism economy. The necessary expenditures that we are doing for promotion for additional, we're at capacity. That's where we're bumping and bothering the margins of these tensions. If we're concerned about the hotelification of Charleston, then if there wasn't the demand by the increased tourism, they wouldn't be being built. So why are we continuing to encourage the overpopulation of the peninsula with individuals that are not contributing entirely, cruise ship individuals, to our economic base? We used to attract some of the best. And I just read today some of the saddest news. McCrady's Tavern is closing. That's a staple on the alley. That's what when I think about East Bay, I think about Sean Brock, yes. I think about McCrady's, even Monero. And the changing dynamic of the hotelification is really a product of our own government's priorities, and that priority seems to be the commodification of Charleston.
Let me get back to the audit, because Michael Bursched, is a former general counsel to the State Ethics Commission, and he was actually hired as a special counsel to the audit. He basically said this quote: "I found no self-feeling by the mayor or any actions or conduct showing the mayor or Mrs. Sandy Tecklenburg have personally financially benefited from their actions." When you hear that, what goes to your mind?
Well, that's a legal conclusion. And what that means is that there's no violation of any existing policy. And this is an individual that's an attorney who's independently auditing, not a judge. So, but looking at the totality of the circumstances, does not believe any law has been violated. It doesn't mean that there's not the appearance of impropriety.
Okay.
We can have an appearance of impropriety, but if there's no existing rule saying this is wrong, then there's no legal violation.
And he also went on to say this, actually, quote, "No action of Mayor Tecklenburg or his family appears to be born out of desire to use the office of mayor for financial gain, but rather they appear to be motivated by their interest in representing the citizens of the city." What is their interest?
Well, I believe that comment, and we're quoting somebody.
Right.
So special counsel, I think, was a great step, an outside independent counsel versus the City of Charleston Council, who kind of spoke prematurely at the initial onset of this matter at City Council meeting regarding business cards. So special counsel is pointing to the interest of Mayor Tecklenburg and Sandy Tecklenburg, her nonprofits. Everything is motivated for the betterment of our city, that they are not gaining financial means and ability or leverage. For example, we can look at the U.S. Constitution and the annulment clause,
Right.
which has been in national news recently.
Sure.
Special counsel has said right now that their motivation, his belief or her belief, is that this is not guided by self-interest. Now, there's two things with a crime: the act and the mindset.
Okay.
It's the actus reus and the mens res. What special counsel is alluding to is that even though there's an act that may create an issue or something to look deeper into, and maybe we should create policy to change that from happening in the future, the mens rea, which is the guilty mind, that it was not motivated by any material gain by our mayor and Ms. Tecklenburg, Sandy, because all of our interest, and they did get, some of the charities did get financial increases from the city, but that does not go into anyone's pocket.
Right.
Those are nonprofits.
Right.
So is it a Peter Pan scenario that maybe regulation needs to make more clear when we have, and as an attorney, we have clear rules of conflicts of interest. And perhaps City Council needs to guide legal counsel to draft policies and procedures to prevent these kind of gray areas from occurring again.
Is there any conflict of interest in, with all of this going on right now?
So I guess you're asking me whether the real estate issues with Mayor Tecklenburg is a conflict of interest with him holding office.
Yeah, you can talk about that as well.
Well, I don't think, as a civil servant, and when we run for city council, when we run for mayor, we're not doing it for financial gain. It is not some way to better yourselves. A councilman gets paid actually a little $17,500, and I've pledged to put mine back into neighborhood beautification, half of it. But it's not for monetary gain, and that's what special counsel is alluding to. So you're doing it for the betterment of our society, and particularly the citizens of our city.
Let me get to the other side. Mayor Tecklenburg told Channel 5 that he says he believes politics played a role in the call for the audit. He says this, quote, "I know it's election season, but there's important work to be done between now and November. That's the job we all signed up for, and I look forward to getting back to it tomorrow night at our next city council meeting, which just happened on Tuesday. And I know the campaign actually said this: the key findings from the report state all expenditures by the mayor's office were legal under state and local law, and that Tecklenburg reimbursed the city for his wife's travel expenses when she accompanied him on business trips. The report also stated there was nothing improper about Tecklenburg's wife driving him to events in the city vehicle because the mayor, quote, has the authority to permit any licensed, properly insured driver to operate a city vehicle, a necessity or a necessary safety precaution when he's in conducting other city business en route. How do you break that down?
Well, so this was the clarification, and what came up at council is, the question was whether the mayor's wife is permitted to drive a city vehicle because of insurance coverage and other issues. So that's speaking directly to the point that she is what we call under the law, a permissive user.
Okay.
And that under the policy, she would be covered as a permissive user because of his actions and his conduct at the time. Now, what I love about what you just read is our system of democracy, that we have oversight. We have these issues, and we have individuals that are willing to tackle the corruption and make change. Whether this was a politically motivated issue, I have no doubt with election season coming up that with the new trend in politics and the glamorization and almost reality TV type mentality of politics, that this had a political motive, but it was a unanimous decision by council.
If you were on council today, would you vote for that audit?
Based on what was known at the time, on a public floor, it should have been taken up in executive session, but yes, because the asterisk was this audit could be taken up by any other member. And to restrict a governmental body from calling for an audit when there is at least a genuine issue of material facts would not support our democratic values. So if I was a councilman at that time, giving just a genuine issue of material fact, I would have had to move to proceed with the audit as well. And that's why we have these bureaucratic divisions. We have an auditor who loves to audit, and that's his job, auditing.
Right.
So let's throw him a bone. We don't want to know if it's going to taste bad or good right now. We just want the results.
Are you happy with these results?
Well, I don't think the results are final yet.
That's right. That's just point that out.
So, and I'm going to go back to our earlier interview when this was first all raised, that I think this shows us more about politics in Charleston than anything else. It's not about the mayor's conduct. It's about how we see the future of Charleston and where we're going from where we were. Mayor Tecklenburg has been faced with animosity, adversarial individuals, and a lack of cohesion that we saw under Mayor Riley, which you would expect with the transition period. What the future of Charleston as a whole is the idea that we can no longer stay the same. We have to innovate, and we have to be at the forefront of making our city the most livable city in America. And by livability, sidewalks. Sometimes I ask myself when I'm disappointed that the police department doesn't do more bicycle patrols on the peninsula, and then I read about how our fatality rate and our collision rate is so high. Perhaps it's a safety issue for officers not to be bicycling on the peninsula. But if that's true, then what are we doing for our citizens and our guests to be able to bicycle on the peninsula? That we have a lot more issues going on than just business cards. We have a division that will completely audit and give us the facts. We need to get our government back to governing and looking towards the future and not name-calling and playing the politicalization of this process with the powers that are held. Because imagine, I don't hold a seat right now. Would I have had the power to call for an audit? No. If I had pointed out any improprieties of any agencies at a city council meeting, would that have triggered any kind of review? So it is a political process. And if we're outside of politics, you don't have access to it. And that's one of the issues that needs to change with our city council and why I'm running. That we need modernization of our governance that's responsive to the new demands of our citizens, existing, present, future.
Now, another part of this audit, and you just mentioned that it's going to be coming, more of it's going to come out, and Mayor Tecklenburg, as always, has been invited to Quintin's close-ups to do an interview, so he's welcome as well as Sandy if they want to. But Roy Willie, apparently, allegedly, he was paid by the city to sit in on city council meetings and look at new software, allegedly. When you look at that aspect, how do you look at it as far as an attorney?
So, and I want to say, I am a member of the House of Delegates for the South Carolina Bar.
Right.
I represent the Ninth Circuit. Both he and his wife are members of the bar. And just like I have pledged to uphold the Constitution, our ethics, I believe both of the family to be of the utmost integrity. Now, the question is, where did the funding come from? If it came from private and you needed advisement and you had the funding in the purse that Mayor Tecklenburg has to pay for these advisors, you can pay them to do whatever you want them to do or whatever you believe is in the best interest of the city. And I'll tell you, if he was reviewing our current city app or the way our platform works for city government and the accessibility of government, it needs modernization from the bottom up. It is the least intuitive, interactive platform for any municipality our size that I have observed. And I mean, I even went out to Portland to look at this $125,000 toilet we started purchasing. And, you know, there's some things that need to be changed. We can rearrange our budget, but the first thing we need to realize is that there has to be a change within City Council. The status quo and do nothingness is no longer effective. We need to come together with our shared vision that Charleston is not just a destination.
Now, let me move over to you. I was reading some reports that apparently, I don't know if this is true, that you may have gotten arrested for DUI recently?
I figured that was going to come out in this interview. I have been accused. I was pulled over. Now, DUI falls into two different categories. The issue you're asking about is I refused the breathalyzer at 5 o'clock in the afternoon after having left work in the middle of the day. So there was no breathalyzer results. It was a straight refusal, which I realized that was improperly posted on the internet. I can't do anything about that. I believe in free speech. But you are in fact correct. I have been accused at 5 o'clock, I think it was 5:20 in the afternoon, and my refusal in the DUI charge, it was based on the refusal to do the BAC because I believe they lacked probable cause. And I believe that the officer was not complying with the field sobriety test. In fact, not going into details because I am represented. And you definitely didn't bring this up to me before, but I own it. If you get pulled over for DUI and you refuse the test, you automatically are arrested for DUI because of your refusal under the implied consent.
Were you intoxicated that day?
No. This is kind of funny that on that day, I'd actually been in DUI court that morning. I left DUI court in Mount Pleasant, went directly to Johnson-Hagood Stadium. At Johnson-Hagood Stadium, I performed 4 hours of pro bono work with the Valor System doing free wills for veterans, which I actually just received a commendation from the Attorney General and the bar.
You showed me that.
And after that, I went back to Mount Pleasant. I have an elderly mother over there, and she watches my dog often. So we did a dog swap. I then went and met an individual at a coffee shop that does not serve alcohol. And in an act of road rage, a young man, which led to the whole issue of the police being there, because I was pulled over not even operating a vehicle. It was in the park. So there's a whole bunch of questions, but for that whole day, and which is why I thought it was so ludicrous, that the smell of cologne was their probable cause. How do I smell, Quintin? Do you wear cologne?
No.
I mean, those are the questions, and I can't go into detail.
Sure.
But it was literally at the close of business. And I cooperated, I consented, and there are some other issues that will come out, but that don't affect anything about the election, because this is really about how the law operates in the accused, and I'm defending that.
How do you define character?
So, well, I think we just exhibited right there. I did not know that question was coming. It was something from my personal life. And character is speaking up and owning up to what you are and believing in you and a higher power and letting that guide you in your decisions and your process. But I think character is less important than integrity. Integrity is something that drives me. It's one of my core values, which is why I will always answer any question that you have.
I appreciate it.
And I will tell you that what you're reading that was entered is incorrect.
Okay. Now, let me get back to your campaign. How's that going in your mind?
Well, how do you judge a campaign? Look at certain criteria. You can't judge it by Facebook likes, because if you look at Facebook likes, I have exceeded any other candidate exponentially. But what I look at is my community and what my community perceives me to be doing for it. Rather than spending every day knocking on doors, I'll be picking up trash in the neighborhood. It's giving back, which is why I was just awarded the Pro Bono Award last month, Pro Bono Attorney of the Month by Charleston Pro Bono. I give back and I fight for the law, and I'm an advocate not just for my clients. I'm an advocate for the rule of law that needs to be transparent, non-corrupt.
Jason Taylor, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Wholesalers.
It was always a blast, Quinn. It's
Yeah.
great seeing you.
Thank you.
Look forward to the next one.
Yes, sir.